Welcome to today's Explainer. We are tackling a massive, honestly, pretty urgent problem in the tech world today. Look, every single year, millions of IT grads walk out of university with a shiny degree in their hands and absolutely no job waiting for them. It's incredibly frustrating, right? If you're looking at the current landscape, it might even feel a little hopeless. But then you look at the other side of the spectrum. You see someone who maybe even dropped out of college, but they've got 3 rock-solid GitHub projects, and boom, suddenly they're getting hired at a product-based company in just 2 months. So what on earth is going on here? Well, the difference between these two scenarios isn't luck. It's not some magical network of insider connections, and honestly, it isn't even raw natural talent. It's skills. Specifically, building the right skills in the absolute right order. So in this explainer, we're going to break down the exact 2026 roadmap to transform you from a frustrated applicant into a highly sought-after candidate. Okay, let's dive into this stark contrast. On one side, we have the traditional path, right? You got a college degree, you throw your resume into a giant pile of 500 other applicants, and you hear absolute crickets. No job. But on the other side, we have targeted, solid GitHub projects leading straight to a job offer in 2 months. Landing a job in tech today is simply not about having a piece of paper anymore. Companies literally do not have the time or the resources to hold your hand and teach you the basics from scratch. They want to see what you can actually do. The job market has fundamentally shifted. It's moved away from credential-based hiring and straight into evidence-based hiring. You have to prove you can solve their specific problems. And this leads us to the biggest trap almost every beginner falls into. Breadth without depth equals no job. Seriously, this is the inciting incident for so many failed job searches. When beginners realize they need skills, they get completely overwhelmed. I mean, it's like a giant puzzle. They try to learn a little bit of every single technology out there. You know the drill. They do a weekend course on Python, then they watch a YouTube video on React, then they hear Docker is super trendy right now, so they try to learn that too. 6 months later, they know a little bit of everything, but they don't know anything deeply enough to actually get hired. Companies don't hire you to be a jack of all trades. They're hiring you for deep, specific problem solving in one particular area. So to fix this, we are following a 5-step blueprint today. First, we'll cover the reality of IT hiring. Second, the 3 non-negotiable foundations you absolutely must have. Third, choosing your specific tech specialization for 2026. Fourth, the power of projects. And finally, securing the actual job offer. Starting with part 1, the IT hiring reality. Stop being a generalist. The big secret nobody tells you is that IT is actually 5 or 6 completely different industries all mashed together, and they require entirely different skill stacks. Moving to part 2, the 3 non-negotiable foundations. Essentially, it's time to pour the concrete. These foundations are the core skills that every recruiter silently checks for before they even glance at your specific tech stack. If you skip this part, everything you build afterward is going to feel shaky and fragile. But if we get this right, every specialization you try to pick up later becomes exponentially easier to grasp. So here's exactly what that concrete foundation looks like. Step 1 is programming fundamentals. And for 2026, Python is the absolute most versatile starting point. We aren't just talking about memorizing syntax here. We're talking about really understanding how to break a problem down, write clean logic, and debug your code without completely panicking. Python is readable, and it spans across AI, backend development, and automation. Step 2 is data structures and algorithms. And Step 3 is computer science fundamentals, so things like database management systems, operating systems, and computer networks. Look, these aren't just for passing college exams. They show up in real production bugs and real system design. If you're learning SQL for databases, don't just memorize it. Build a mini project using those queries. It sticks 10 times better. Now, let's hover on Step 2 for just a second because I know it's the biggest roadblock for most people. DSA is the language of technical interviews. I know, literally everyone hates data structures and algorithms. But here is the harsh truth. Even small startups are now asking basic DSA questions. Why? Because it's the absolute fastest way to test how you actually think rather than just regurgitating what you've memorized. The good news? You absolutely do not need to master 500 LeetCode code problems. You just need a rock-solid grasp of the basics: arrays, strings, hash maps, recursion, and basic tree or graph traversal. That is your mandatory baseline. Let's move to and see how this builds. Part 3, choosing your tech specialization, the 2026 toolkit. And this brilliantly illustrates what comes next. Once your foundational concrete is poured and set, you can't stay a generalist. You have to pick a specific career weapon. Companies hire for specific problems, right? Not just general potential. Let's look at the 3 most in-demand tracks right now and the exact tools you need for each. First up, AI, machine learning, and large language models. This is the fastest growing field with the least competition at the entry level. The data shows us you need Python, pandas, and you absolutely need to learn agentic frameworks like LangChain so you can build actual AI agents, not just basic chatbot wrappers. You also need to understand model evaluation, things like AUCRC and SHAP. Next is full-stack web development. The MERN stack, that's MongoDS, Express, React, and Node.js, is still the #1 ask for startups. But the secret sauce here is knowing how to deploy it using Git, Vercel, or basic Docker concepts. Finally, cloud and DevOps. This one is incredibly stable. Don't go out and learn 3 different cloud providers, pick one, like AWS. Learn EC2, S3, networking, and get into CI/CD pipelines. The absolute golden rule here. Pick just one track from this table and go incredibly deep.
Which brings us to part 4, the power of projects, moving from learning to doing. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the definition of a real project. Look, you can finish every course, collect every certificate, and binge every tutorial series on the internet and still get rejected. Why? Because courses only prove you can follow instructions. The real magic happens when you build something entirely from scratch. A real project is not a generic to-do list app that you copied line for line from a tutorial video. A real project is a custom-built tool that solves a specific problem, even a small, annoying problem in your own life. And it is properly deployed for actual users. It could be an AI feature that works end-to-end or a marketplace for a niche product. Recruiters are skimming hundreds of resumes every single day. Real, deployed, problem-solving applications force them to stop scrolling. Build 2 or 3 of these, write a clean README file, deploy them so anyone can click a link and use them, and you instantly bypass a massive percentage of your competition who never finish that last 20% of polish. And finally, part 5, securing the job offer, the final mile.
So, the crucial point is, having great code doesn't automatically hand you a job. While technical skills get you the interview, these 3 soft skills are what actually secure the offer. First, clear communication. You need a 30-second pitch. You must be able to explain what your project does, clearly and concisely, out loud. Second, online consistency. You need to be posting about what you're learning and building on LinkedIn or a personal portfolio. It signals to recruiters that you are actively building, not just sitting around on a credential. Third, and perhaps most importantly, direct cold outreach. Please do not just wait for job postings in mass supply. Send short, highly specific messages directly to founders and hiring managers at startups, explaining exactly why your specific skills make you a perfect fit. It has a massively higher success rate.
So, we've covered a lot today. The reality of the market, the non-negotiable concrete foundations, the exact 2026 tech stacks, the undeniable power of real projects, and the soft skills to actually get you over the finish line. The IT industry doesn't reward people who simply know the most. It rewards people who can prove what they know. So let's leave off with a direct question to reflect on for your own journey. Which track are you choosing? Look at your skills, look at what you actually enjoy building, and decide right now which specific path you're going to master. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really can't wait to see what you build.